the CEO and founder of Matasma Digital Solutions Private Limited. Welcome to TheSamwad, Gajendra ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for having me.
Firstly, I was just going through your website, Matasma, and I am really enthused about this name, Matasma.
Matasma.
Okay.
So, no, I think that's what we get often. When we started this journey, right, and we wanted to build something in intelligence, we also wanted it to be very rooted to where we come from, right? So it's more like a blended Sanskrit syllable of mat, which stems from mati, which means intelligence, and asma, which in different forms and interpretation shows boundless, infinite potential that one can have. So we combined the two words because what we wanted to stand for is that intelligence is boundless, boundaryless, equivalent to how you can call it as infinite intelligence. So we wanted to stand for an organization that helps build you infinite intelligence. So that's how the word came. And since we wanted to make it single word for the organization, so we made this blended Sanskrit from Sanskrit.
Brilliant. Yeah. I mean, I'm really, I would say I like companies who stick to the roots, as you said.
Sure.
So boundless intelligence.
Yes.
Or boundless intelligence or boundless unlimited intelligence is
absolutely. Absolutely.
Fantastic. And I also, people who think like that, also my own feeling is that you're always thinking about Bharat and India and solving and contributing to the progress of India. I think that is, I would say, the start for the seed for today's talk. So what is Matasma all about?
So we started this journey predominantly with a view that, and this also comes from my own personal story, right? So my professional journey has spanned across me spending time in strategy consulting in the early years, and then I joined a corporate Bosch to lead their strategy, and then did multiple leadership roles with them, where I got exposed to technology and how technology at scale could be of such advantage to what we are building today, right? As we have grown in population globally, not just in India, I believe that technology can solve a lot of problems for the society, people, and businesses alike. And that is where my role as heading the new business ventures for Bosch allowed me and gave me an exposure to build technology which is scalable across multiple countries and solving very core problems to humanity. So when we started this journey of the organization, I realized from my professional experience that oftentimes, when we are thinking about intelligence or decision making, we are thinking of elements of it, right? So whenever a leader is trying to make a decision, the leader ends up thinking about data that whether the organization has or not, the people, the process. Oftentimes there are different people catering to all these different needs, right, when it comes to decision making. So we wanted to bring the data, the technology, and the process behind it together in one organization. And as I think also philosophically, right, if you were to just reflect, Swami Vivekananda has very famously said that, intelligence is not acquired, it is unfolded. Right. And so in my personal experience, I saw that in the organization. Every organization can be intelligent because it has all the ingredients, right? Today, whatever we are thinking of the new age technology is about unfolding that intelligence, which lies somewhere behind the people, data, and everything that the organization possesses. So that has been our core focus when we started this organization, that we'll build something which brings together a lot of value instead of making individual streams adding value for the organization.
So, Gajendra ji, if you look at your profile, you have worked for two solid, I would say, corporate organizations, very big and, I would say process-oriented and quite a bit of, if I may call, bureaucratic processes also. Let's accept large companies. They have, solid processes, which is sort of, I would say, inhibits innovation and new thinking or whatever. Deloitte and Bosch. So in such, I myself have experienced both in such large organization and some of the newer and smaller or startup kind of organization. So if you look at larger organizations, like the ones you worked, Deloitte and Bosch, obviously you will have to, you have a lot of learning from such organizations, but also something that you unlearn. So can you share your experience before we get into how you're using that in Matasma? So can you share your experience in these two organizations, both what is it that you would like to recommend, and what is it that you would like to avoid using that experience?
I think rightly said, right? I mean, large organizations grow large because of how they have developed themselves and built themselves to last. I mean, that is something that I recognized very early in both these organizations. What we call as bureaucratic processes or the challenges that one has to encounter, right, when it comes to innovation. Also, I think a lot of it is slowly moving away from organization, because all of these large organizations are also trying to find ways to, rediscover themselves. And let's be honest, if they had not rediscovered themselves every decade, they wouldn't have existed, right? So for sure they have, and they have built a method and template through which they can. For me, I think what really I take away from my experience and the journey so far is, how do you design something that sustains? Because large organizations somewhere find that core soul really well. That what makes you stick to that organization. Now, it could be any stakeholder, it could be customers, it could be people who work with you, it could be your partners. So getting that soul right was very, very critical for us. So when the first thing that we did was really write our values. Right, and the three values that we wrote was ethics, empathy, and excellence.
Interesting.
And we realized that our entire solutions will change over a period of time, like for any other organization, but the values will have to gravitate towards these three E's. So that is one learning. Second, I think the very detailed problem solving, the layered problem solving, and structured problem solving is something that I think doing a startup as well, it really helped, because then you are not really running in every direction. You're very clear on the kind of problems you're trying to solve for. And then you went really deep into solving those problems. So depth is something that really, really was my takeaway. And the third, I would say that, there's just the culture aspect of it, right? So without the culture, you cannot really build large organization. And when I mean large, I don't mean in terms of either revenue or size. I mean in terms of impact. Right, a lot of organizations exist creating impact of different forms and sort. And for us, when we started, we wanted to really create an impact in the space that we operate in, and that has been our measure of success so far. Right, so we don't measure ourselves only by revenues or number of people we work with or number of projects that we do, number of solutions we build, but really what is the depth of impact that we are able to do in all those interactions that we have as an organization.
Very good, very good. I think I like it because I can myself relate to your own experiences, and especially when it comes to integrity, ethics, and values, which the large organizations, because over decades,
absolutely,
maybe these organizations, I think they're all more than 50-60 years old, and they have brought in that system which keeps all these things in check. That is one. And second is, you mentioned a very important point, and especially we tend to forget that in a startup or in our own entrepreneurial ventures is culture. And there's a famous statement which said culture can eat strategy for breakfast. So no matter you draw out fantastic strategies, but if you have a poor culture, it is bound to be a disaster. So we'll talk about that, culture and leadership. Tell me, when you started Matasma, did you have this concept or other, because you mentioned that you started Matasma in 2021, and I remember 2021 we had just got over the COVID period, or rather getting out of the COVID period. 2021, just about 5 years since you started. And AI was not even a buzzword.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
We thought, though we all know AI,
Right.
AI was, I would say, silently being used by many of us, but
Sure.
it was not a hype, it was not a buzzword.
Right.
So, did you think of building, something around AI, or is it that you transformed as the industry, started accepting AI as a futuristic technology?
So when we started, our view was not to base ourselves on one sort of technology, right? And as you would know already, right, that artificial intelligence is not a new word that has come to the fore.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, if you look at the genesis of the word itself, it comes from one of the research papers of 1954 by Professor McCarthy in Dartmouth, when he talks about how systems could do the learning, reasoning, and decision making. So when we started the organization, the idea was to be in the space of intelligent decision systems and help organizations make better decisions because of two problems that we identified, right? One, we often saw that people who were making decisions, they were very far from where the data was getting created. So how do you make sure that there is zero distance between the decision maker and the data, right? So how do you create that zero distance? That's one. Second was the decision velocity itself, right? The rate at which you can make a decision or the quality of decisions that you make. How do you improve it over a period of time? Because technology so far has allowed us to accelerate the adoption of processes, systems, data acquisition, data movement, all of that. But when it comes to decision, I believe it is still failing to cater to the needs of enterprise, those who head the enterprise functions or large enterprises or even any scale of the enterprise. Because at the end of the day, you want that data to make decisions. So we realized that we want to play in that space. Wherein we work because we understood the business aspect, we understood the functions, and we understood the underlying technology that was driving those functions and decisions. So we wanted to play in that. Coincidentally, I think I would say there has been almost like a parallel uptick post COVID of this word called artificial intelligence, right? And every organization started talking about a lot more while they were already working in some form or shape, calling it either early stage machine learning, deep learning, so on and so forth. So that's, I would consider it more like a accidental fortune for us that when we talk about decision systems today, by and large it means artificial intelligence. But there's a lot more to decision systems than just artificial intelligence.
So your company is focused on, from what I read on your website, is data analytics, automation, and process automation, and data engineering, and generative AI. So, I mean, is generative AI a tool for your intelligent decision-making systems, or what's your company strategy when it comes to providing solutions to enterprises?
So for us, I mean, if you look at the services today, right, that we offer, it is the entire stack that will help you make better decisions, right? So right from data engineering. So you are an enterprise. You have a lot of data residing across different functions: HR, finance, supply chain, IT, other support functions, business functions, business data, including your revenues, customers, partners. How do you make sure that your data is available in the format that will help your functional leaders and enterprise leaders make better decisions? That's one. Second, we realize that apart from data engineering, you also need to do a lot of process analytics and automation. Because without underlying process analytics and automation, your data could be just a garbage, right? That gets created. And oftentimes a lot of redundant data gets created, which is not good enough to move to the layer of decision making, right? So the third, like you said, is predominantly the layer of connected intelligent planning, wherein we wanted to make sure that the planning and transaction are in line. Oftentimes, organizations today plan in Excel sheets, and then they implement when the action happens in the business side, they record in ERP systems, transaction systems, and it becomes very difficult for them to compare where they are. So a lot of time goes today in just aggregating the data from the transaction systems and comparing it against the planning. So we also are partners with a lot of large platforms of connected intelligent planning, wherein we bring solutions, our own solutions, custom-made solutions, as per the need of the customer to do that. Now, in that pursuit, we discovered that generative AI is a great tool, wherein it can really supercharge the way you look at the entire user interaction with the data. So it actually resonated with our idea of creating a zero-distance organization. So what generative AI brings today to the fore is your ability to consume data at a speed which was unimaginable. When I say consume data, in terms of reasoning, not just extracting data from the databases, making sense of it, and also trying to give you some direction in terms of what is the right way in which you should be using this data to make decision.
If I look at any organization, because I also come from quite a bit of experience in large organizations, most corporate enterprises, or even if you take large service provider companies, would have ERP deployed across their enterprise, global enterprises. So where does your solution come in? I mean, is it a layer on top of these ERPs, or is it like at a user level, or where does your
I would say it is at a layer above ERP. ERP records all transactions across all processes. Where we play is predominantly at the planning layer. So we help the organizations to plan better. This planning
so
can
much
be
before you get into the ERP.
Yes, much before you get to the ERP. So let's say now we are in November. A lot of organizations would have either already done the planning cycle, or they would be doing their planning cycle, and they would be allocating resources for different business needs they have, right, from human resource to capital investments to revenue expenses to IT infrastructure. So organizations will go through a planning cycle where they will have certain expectations of the revenues, certain expectations of the cost for next year. Now, this agile method of planning could be recorded in systems, and that is where the systems that you build come in. In lack of this system today, like I said, most of this thing is done in Excel sheets. Now imagine one input changes, right? Now you have to again bring all the Excel sheets together and integrate it. That's one aspect of it, right? Second, every month, or at least once in 2 months, you want to see how you are doing against your planning, right, from your cost allocation to your revenue planning standpoint, as well as for capital investments. So in such a case, you want to do planning versus actual comparisons regularly, because you want to be in a situation where you make agile decision, because world is only getting more uncertain, right? Right from, if you look at how the global setup today for business ecosystem is, right, from supply chain disruptions to technology disruptions to changes in tariffs, so on and so forth, would have an impact on the business, right? And then the currency rate fluctuations. Now, business, if they have to make an agile decision basis where they find themselves today, now they would need certain tools which will allow them to do it on a real-time basis, right? So that's one aspect of what we build. And then the second aspect of what we build is a lot of conversational tools like generative AI, which will help a decision maker to quickly ask a very simple, relevant question on tell me what are the areas that I should focus on in my business. And it mines the data that is available in the enterprise, brings up the 3 key pointers that one has to focus on. It really eliminates the time that one used to take to have a business analyst sitting with them and mine through all the data to make certain presentations and recommendations. So being a strategy consultant, I see how it would have been so much easier if a tool like this was available in the area of strategy consulting earlier when I started my career, because it really reduces your time to build hypothesis. And then if you have the data mined from across the organization, which is contextual to that organization, your ability to build the hypothesis and implement transformational changes and initiatives becomes far more effective.
So, you said your company, Matasma, is focused on data engineering, process automation, and of course, generative AI. So, it sort of comes back to my earlier question. Where would you position? Are you a AI-focused company? Today, you're transformed to an AI-focused company? Or is it the conventional data engineering and data analytics kind of a company? Because when I've seen many data analytics companies, which did not really talk about generative AI, whatever. Today, since you're transformed last, let's say, 18 months to 24 months, Has there been any shift in strategy? Have you been able to come across more opportunities because you are at the early lead in dealing with data?
Absolutely.
How do you see the transformation?
Well, absolutely. I think so. When I talked about the services that we deliver, it is for one common objective, and our purpose is very clearly. If you just open the first page of the website, it's written, "Your one-stop solution for building intelligent decision systems."
Okay.
That is
So
what
AI is more of a tool which came in your journey. So, which is possibly I mean, the good and bad is you will possibly be able to address more number of opportunities.
Absolutely.
The bad is there is more competition because everybody is transforming to.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
even these large companies, I don't know who would be your competitors.
No, see,
Among the large companies, including these ERP companies, would they be your competitors?
So see, ERP companies have their own, I would say, customer segments and the problems that they solve. For sure, they also play in a planning layer. We also play in a planning layer. We work with a lot of partner technology companies who bring the technology, and we build the consulting layer, we build the process layer, we build the execution layer with them. Our competitors would be any large and small boutique consulting and AI company today, which is AI first organization, right? So they are our true competitors because we are building services and we are also building solutions. So we are not purely building services in the age of AI and trying to cater to a project requirement that an organization has. For sure, we'll do that. But there's also a bit of AI solutions that we build. So anyone who is building AI solution in a typical parlance, I would call it as a vertical AI for a particular domain or a function, would be our competitor or a competitor.
So great. I also glanced through your website, the reference list, and it's in 5 years you seem to have made some great progress. So many logos on your website which are your customers. So can you maybe share a small case study, maybe a short one, of one which you can possibly talk about in public, where you really made an impact for that company and transformed the way they are able to take decisions?
Sure. So I wouldn't like to talk about a specific company per se, but I'll talk about the problem statement that we have solved for a couple of companies. And while you see that as a progress in the next 5 years, I think we are still in very, very early days because we think ourselves as early starters of AI. Given that this decade is going to be more about decade of intelligence.
True.
If the last decade was about decade of data, the next 10 years is going to be about decade of intelligence. And we want to really be the early starters of that decade of intelligence. So we are just getting started that way. One of the problem statement, I think, when we are working in this domain specifically, we have come across finance and accounting professionals, wherein today, if you imagine they have to do any kind of an analysis, they all end up doing analysis in Excel sheets. They'll have to take data from multiple systems, right? Because they are the ones who are taking care of the budgets, revenue, everything. So all the P&L items, whether it's HR, supply chain, sales, any other planning, actually comes down and boils down when it comes to cash to finance and accounting professionals. And they will have to go and mine data from multiple places to be able to make either themselves a decision or give their executives a view of how the decision has to be made. So what we build is a platform which we have built, and now we'll also we are planning to make it more available to more customers early next year, called Ledger LM. So what this platform does is that it brings all the different sources of data that exist in the organization. Your enterprise data, it could be ERP, it could be CRM, it could be planning data. All the documents, right? Any document that the organization has, including, let's say, your policies, because oftentimes we want to refer to the policies, your accounting documents, your M&A documents, any documents which is of statutory compliance or critical strategic nature, plus your web APIs. There are a lot of information available in the web, plus a lot of financial information about your competitors or industry competitors. we have brought all of this together on one llM platform, which works like how you would imagine a chat GPT or a Perplexity to work, but built for finance and accounting professionals. So you can ask any question. Let's say you can toggle on off any of the data sets that you would want, create a board of yourself, and go into deep down analysis, where let's say you just want to make sure that you want to do profitability analysis. So you can ask a very simple question, and the data will be pulled from all different data sources. Data will be ingested, decision or reasoning will be done, and suggestions would be given to you. Now the data is represented in form of tables, graph, which is very amenable to how a finance professional is used to seeing data, right? Not just data written in formats like 2012 is this data, 2013 is this data, so on and so forth. So this is very custom built for finance and accounting professional, and we have seen a lot of good adoption. A lot of customers are wanting to have this kind of a platform and a solution, because it can sit on top of all the data sources that you have, and it becomes very conversational in nature, right? And the entire data security that we talk about, or data management from an enterprise standpoint, is managed really well in a platform like this. So I would consider this as a new way of solving a problem that already always existed in the organization with what we have been able to do.
Are you building a product, or is it like a customized for every enterprise or for every customer? You're building an application for based on your let's say a platform, and selling it to the customers, or what is your?
It is a product. It's predominantly a product. But oftentimes, as you would be aware, enterprise would want to do their own customization. So we also have deployed it for an individual customer for the customization that they would need. But standalone today, this has been developed completely as a global
So it's
product.
a product,
Yes,
and which is customizable.
absolutely.
But you don't have like a general product for all. There are many financial tools which chartered accountants and
It can be used as a general product. So
is
the
a
basic
general
version,
product
the basic version of the product can be used as a general product.
basically.
So, but the advanced and the custom versions will, of course, be more attuned to
For
how
larger
the
companies.
enterprises would want to review data. Because for small enterprises or other, the volume of data may not be as much. The kind of analysis they may need to do.
So what
may
will
not
be your
as
focus? Like a customized application solution for an enterprise, or is it like a general product available to all enterprises, off the shelf kind of a product? Is that also?
I think we today, as far our strategy and next 10 years view is concerned, I think we have to do both. For primary reason is that there is a
So you have
segment
customers
of-
on both.
Yes.
For
So
both.
yes, because there is a large set of customer who either because of price points or otherwise, you can call them small mid-tier, or just depending upon their kind of problem statements that they are trying to solve for, may not have access to a solution like this. So while the large enterprises would want more customization for the complexity of problem they have. So when we looked at the entire solutioning in this space, we realized that both the verticals have to be built, given that the needs are very different, and these two are predominantly very different customer segments.
Yeah. Gajendra ji, your product, and of course the company itself, is so much rooted in Indian culture and Bharatiya culture. You mentioned the genesis of the name, starting from the name. So are you building a global product for global corporations, or are you building a product and a solution for Indian companies and Indian corporations which will become global? Which is the way you're looking at it?
We realize that AI is presenting opportunity wherein you can actually have a global mindset and build products which can ship globally.
Yep.
Right. And I think there's given the times that we are in, the ability to customize it for Indian businesses, for Indian rules, Indian laws, accounting principles, or any other domain that we tomorrow build in, is something that would be natural to us, right? So when I talked about the two approaches.
So what I was asking specifically was, are you starting with a product made for India and then made for the world? Is that how you're transforming, or is it like you're starting from because today Bangalore or global companies are all over the place,
Right.
So are you addressing India's problems first, or starting as a global solution provider?
So we are starting as a global solution provider, if honestly spoken, because we realize that Indian businesses are not behind in terms of their need. So when I look at the domain that I'm speaking of, I wouldn't see any vast difference between the need of a large Indian conglomerate and a global conglomerate in terms of the kind of decisions they would want to make, right? But one area where I said I see a bit of a difference is that the base solution, the uptake of base solution where you can do basic intelligence, that should be available, and that we are building with a very clear Indian businesses mindset.
Yeah, so that is what, because I see many startups and young companies, trying to, think global. But I always suggest that, look at the Indian market first.
Absolutely.
It may be a little bit difficult for whatever reasons of, maybe adaptability or, their vision to, look at newer technologies.
Sure.
So I think it's good that you're thinking India first and then going global, because I think so there may be some commonalities, but if you can, I think it is more difficult to solve India problems.
Yeah,
that will be a better learning. So once you solve Indian problems, or India's problems, or Indian companies' problems, then it becomes easier to solve problems in other countries, especially there are some other developed countries like Americas or Europe or even developed countries. Is that the way you're thinking?
Like I said, I mean, the idea is, when I talked about why global mindset, is because even when you build products for India, the global mindset allows you to make more scalable products, more useful products, even for Indian market. And like you rightly said, the Indian market is adopting technology. It may not be at the same pace as you see with the global counterparts, but it is understanding, and that we see in our consumer life as well, right? That there are a lot of us, right? Almost all the folks who are in the space, technology or related business or otherwise, even in different strata of society today, people are using existing newer age technologies like AI to do or make a lot of decisions. So it's only about time that everything will catch up. So that's why I said that, and I was a bit hesitant to really categorize where and how we are thinking, because for us to make a very clear difference between the two is only getting blurred, right? So what you build for India, while India is a great test bed for creating great solutions, but the mindset still needs to be global. Otherwise, it becomes just India-centric product. So we have been aware of that, and our customers exist in both. If you would have seen the kind of customers that we also cater to in the spaces that we have fairly good number of Indian customers as well as global customers, and learnings from them has allowed us to build, which will appeal from an Indian customer, as well as has a kind of a global scale of its own.
Gajendra ji, I'm happy to note that you are building Matasma with a global mindset, and also not taking your eyes off the Indian market, which is, I think, a good thing to do, because today I'm aware of many things, developments happening in the industry today, where people are looking at India being a AI talent powerhouse, some kind of a talent base, which is possibly available for global corporations or whatever. So, what is your view on the current situation as far as talent is concerned? I'll tell you the background also. I see, as you said, last 10 years was the period of data, data engineering, data analytics, everybody. And I've seen also little bit on the negative side, everybody wanted to jump onto that bandwagon of data. I saw normal engineers, just overnight adding data scientist, data analyst, all kinds of names to their resumes and presenting their resumes. So do you see that the same trend in today's AI world, if I should say, that people are just positioning themselves as AI engineers, experts in AI, experts in Gen AI? Is that hype worrisome, or is it like you know how to choose the best talent? What's your view on overall in the talent perspective?
I think that's a very interesting question because oftentimes a new technology come and you suddenly see that the industry ecosystem is prepared for it or trying to prepare for it. But I also see that there's no other way, right? Whenever a new wave of technology catches up, then the entire industry and people therein would need to catch up. Now, would you, from the day that you have taken a certification or you have started calling yourself as an AI engineer, would you become an AI engineer? It is a journey. Yeah. All that you are stating with that is that now you are committed to build something in AI. Right? I mean, that's how I look at talent today. And I would like to look at talent in three parts, especially if you talk in the context of AI, right? One is the AI engineering part, where there's still a lot of data science, machine learning models, AI models that needs to be built, which is the engineering part of it, data pipelines, a lot of aspect, which I think is a good transition or a good forward movement from the capability we harnessed over all these years when we looked at data and data analytics. Yeah, there are two more parts of AI which has just gotten added, which I think we would need to catch up because that is where a lot of value resides. And this is just my perspective of how I see the value distribution. The second aspect is essentially the foundational research on models. Right, and the IP creation, which I think a lot of work needs to be done. Wherein it doesn't mean that there is zero, but there is substantial that needs to be done when you compare it to the global markets of how US, Europe, and others are playing that. Right, China are playing that. And third kind of a talent is essentially the context, which is about domains, industry, functions. This is where I think a lot of careers and talent would need to get built because like I gave you an example of data being a relevance for last decade and you would have heard often that data is the oil, right? Data is the new oil, and that was kind of
I was going to talk about that. You already brought up that
mainstream media that data is the oil. If data is the oil, then AI is the energy, right? Yeah. And if AI is the energy, you need to use that energy to build appliances, direct and channelize that energy to build something which is of value, and that today resides at the intersection of functions, industry, and domains. Because if you don't know what problem you are going to solve, AI is just electricity that has come to your home. Yeah. Now, what do you do with it? Your home could still be dark. You still need a bulb. You still need a lot of other appliances for different needs of yours. So that is where I think I would see the talent in these three aspects. The first bucket, I think we are transitioning to become, as a country, to provide more AI engineers for the world. But the next two, the bucket of foundational AI model research and the one about functions, industry, and domain, I think a lot of concerted effort has to go there because I see the value shifting from engineering to these two areas as far as AI is concerned.
So, Gajendra ji, I think you mentioned a quote from Swami Vivekananda. I also use a very regularly because I'm connected with so many education institutions.
Okay.
I always tell my mentees or students that you cannot learn anything without experience.
Absolutely.
Right? So there is so much of abundance of talent available in the country, or let's say especially Silicon Valley of India, like Bengaluru, where there are so many engineering, all great engineering colleges. Right. I also studied in Bangalore, which is a college close by to this location. So when I visit the college, I see almost everybody just focused on AI and computer science and all AI and computer science related subjects. When I studied engineering, there were only four. Electrical, electronics, civil and mechanical, and later architecture and other topics. So what is your view on the talent without experience? A startup like you, can you afford to bet on these young engineers who call themselves BTech in AI or BTech in AI in data analytics or whatever? Can you bet on these engineers, especially when you are a funded company where you're accountable you have targets to meet. So where is your talent coming for a startup like yours? Obviously, you cannot afford to, hire people from the larger companies. I think so, but you may want to correct me. Larger companies like, maybe the more established AI companies. Where is your talent coming from, and what is your view on that talent?
I think that's a fair point to observe, and we are bootstrapped. We are not funded. So, last few years we have just bootstrapped our way into where we are today. Having said that, I think when you look at a BTech graduate today and calling themselves an AI engineer, like I mentioned, right, it is more about positioning and an inclination towards that field is how I see it, right? I don't see any harm in positioning, but I would not consider or expect them to have an experience, right? And that has always been true about the industry, especially not just in India, but globally, right? The ability of new freshers coming and getting that experience, a lot of companies are trying to stay away from that, but I don't see any other way. Today someone is graduating, you cannot expect them to have an experience of sorts that will help them suddenly build a domain and function.
So the question is, a startup, especially when you're a bootstrap startup, can you afford to have that 6 months like a training or on-job kind of an experience period where maybe they are not productive in the first 6 months, whereas the larger companies, the software or the tech companies can provide them training, they can do mentoring and counseling, and so much of effort goes into their getting them ready to be productive. But how are you dealing with this?
So for us, I think the mindset, like I said, is very similar to a large enterprise that way. Right? So we understand the value of spending time and grooming our talent, and we don't look at productivity as a metric in the first year. We look at a very long-term orientation on how we can shape someone's ability to contribute to our larger goals. And that is where we spend our efforts on. So we go to campuses to hire. There are a few campuses that we have been regularly going and hiring, where all the large companies also go. And we compete with them in terms of also the opportunities that we provide. And you would be interested to know that, a lot of good candidates choose us to join because of two reasons. One, the purpose that they find in a young startup to what they want to build, and how it resonates and aligns. So the mindset of this new fresher batch coming out every year, I see there's a lot of positivity and a can-do attitude. Right, and also becoming more globally relevant. So they want their contribution to be more globally relevant. That absolutely stands out for me. Second, I think they're more committed also to learning because they understand the rate of obsolescence of technology is so high that learning is the only mode. There's no other mode. So they are already prepared with that mindset, which I think is very, very fruitful for an organization like ours. Point on productivity, like I said, we cannot measure it with that metric because organizations will have to groom talent with a long-term orientation, because if you are short-term oriented, then you would always look at it from a services mindset standpoint, and we have purposely stayed away from it because we realize.
So you're not into truly the services kind of a.
We do services. We do services.
No, services for your own.
My own products as well as for our customers. We do services, but we understand the mindset of pure, productivity and people will not work for us in long run because there's a lot of learning that will get involved. And I think the educational institutions also today are fairly doing a decent job by at least orienting freshers coming out in terms of what are the newer technologies that are being worked on. And in my organization, for example, 90% would be 2-3 years experience. And
so you don't take freshers at all?
We do freshers, and they have all been with us. So when we hired them to what we groom, we run a program called Business Analyst Program with our partnering institutions, and we have groomed them over a period of time. And we've always been patient with how their learning cycles are. But like I said, the one thing that has always been very critical for us is the learnability. And we believe that learning is our only mode in the next 10 years because technologies will continue to become obsolete.
I think, that's one of your unique strength as a startup. I think you're offering that, learning for the youngsters
Right.
who really want to understand.
Right.
But that also learning means it also becomes a stepping stone for them to jump.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Key, I would say, strategy to keep them loyal to a startup. And especially in today's world, I don't think there is anything called as loyalty, or at least it has diminished. Right. So how do you retain the talent? Because a startup cannot afford to have people trained for a year and then they jump for better opportunities. What's your strategy to retain talent?
Right. I think three parts, right? One is we have defined purpose, that we want to stand as an organization, and people align with that purpose, if that is the alignment. A lot of people, of course, may not align with that purpose. The second is very clear opportunity and outcome path, wherein we are very clear and transparent, even as a young organization, to run OKRs, objective and key results, with our people, where they're very clearly seeing how their career is progressing in the organization, that we all are taking a lot of accountability in shaping their career, giving them very clear objectives. So there's a lot of clarity in what we expect them to do, and that helps them perform the best or become the best version of what they can contribute to the purpose of the organization. And third, I think regularly appreciating the work that they do, regularly providing them opportunities to grow, both in career as well as compensation. I think these have been the three things that we have really done it, not just for the sake of saying it, but we have actually meant it, when we extended this to our associates.
Excellent. So as a company, obviously you're a 5-year-old, almost getting to a 5-year-old kind of a company. Today youngsters are also looking for financial incentives which will keep them rooted to the organization that they're working in. So are you matching up to the standards of the large companies in terms of remuneration? Do you have stock options, or what is on the financial aspect? How are you matching up?
So I think the expectation that anyone would have about financial aspect is fair, right? Because if not for that, how would you measure your own objectives that you have in life, right? And how would you achieve them? So oftentimes we believe that having that materialistic goal of finance is not great for young folks who are coming out of college. Yeah, absolutely, yes. In one part, yes. The other part also is no, because you would need that to further your other objectives that you may have in life for yourself. So what we have done is two things. One, and this is a continuous process. I wouldn't say that we have solved all problems, because the expectations also keep shifting, and rightly so, right? So we have made sure that every 6 months we give an increment wherever there is applicable. We continue to be market relevant. So we do that dipstick of where the market is, and irrespective of the need or expectation, we provide that without asking. That's second. So we don't expect them to ask us for a raise. We do that when we think that it has to be.
So proactively you are
absolutely
working on addressing that, because otherwise you don't want to be a hunting ground for larger companies. Absolutely. Because we see that regularly.
Right.
And so let me also come to a few other. You are a young company trying to do something great for the country and and become a global Indian corporation. So for me, AI also means aspirational India. This is one of my favorite questions I ask to all young founders or innovators, or even the legends that I meet. So you think you are matching up to the aspirations of a common Indian, right from when I say that today AI, whether you call it a hype or real or whatever, right from the lowest of a farmer to maybe to the CEO of the largest Indian company is talking about AI,
right,
including from at the Prime Minister's level. I attend so many initiatives which is at the Prime Minister's level, and there is always talk of AI, and there are, as I said, lowest to the highest level. So you think you're matching up to the aspirationals of aspirational India? Does AI also mean aspirational India for you, or you are only focused on the technology aspect and just addressing niche customer segments?
No, I think I personally did not, would have expanded the acronym as Aspiration India, but I think it's fairly put, right? When you look at how you want to interpret the word or the abbreviated form, I think it would be premature to say that we all have achieved or inspiring or becoming, but directionally, I think we all are trying to be that. Right, when you want to build an organization in the country, you create a lot of direct and indirect impact, both in economy, technology, and associated field. So when we look at the purpose that the organization have, and we say we want to build intelligent decision systems, we know that we are rooted in India. We know that we have certain advantages and we have certain disadvantages. We also know that we cannot play only a local game, because if we only play a local game, then we lose out on the global. And it's the same part, right? Oftentimes, when we get inspired by something, I mean, recently India won Women's World Cup in cricket. Now, is it aspirational India? Yeah, because you are aiming for something which was elusive all these years.
Correct.
Right?
That's exactly, I think you've given the right analogy.
For us, when we look at ourselves, we look at it from that spectrum and lens, that for us, aspirational India is chasing that elusive goal of becoming a globally relevant organization, deeply rooted in Indian ecosystem, but trying to create an impact. Now, the nature of that impact, we don't see it as creating a mountain or an ocean. We see it as a ripple. So we are a ripple, but this ripple will create an impact in the ocean and would impact the ecosystem that it operates in. For us, that is how we describe aspiration India for us.
Good, very good. I think you're thinking of something that is has a ripple effect in the industry or the ecosystem or whatever. I think that is what we want. We want people to inspire. I mean, if I may use another word, which is inspire more entrepreneurs like you, whether straight out of college or from corporate organizations. I think that is what India needs today. And India, we have a dream of becoming a developed nation by 2047. I think it is startups like yours which will, solve the problems for India. You are the ones who will, take India to the journey of Viksit Bharat. And so there's, I think, with that mindset, I would also like to, ask you, about the much talked about sovereign AI, whether it is sovereign AI or sovereign semiconductor or sovereign chip or whatever. I think there is a whole lot of talk of sovereign, especially in the last 6 months or since January 21st. If you may know, when one of the greatest men took, oath as the president, I think there is so much of negativity around what can happen, right? So you think you are one of those sovereign solutions companies which is, impacting positively the ecosystem? Because we are talking about ChatGPT and so many other platforms. Now, we had hosted the Honorable Minister, Union Minister Ashwini Vaishnavi just recently, about 3-4 months back, and he talked about, it's like by the end of this year, we are going to have a ChatGPT equivalent like a Bharat GPT. Sure. So you think that will make life easier for a company like yours, or it is at the same time, are you contributing to that sovereign ecosystem? What is your view on this?
Let's see, whenever we are building in AI in some form or shape, or we are trying to work in certain elements of technology, we are all contributing to the larger ecosystem, right? Not just in India, but globally. Why this sovereign conversation comes about multiple times is because of 2-3 reasons. One is how nations have come about and how nations would want to manage now in the current context of, if, like I said, if I consider this as a decade of intelligence, how nations would want to navigate this decade of intelligence. So maybe, this decade of intelligence morphed into a super decade of intelligence and so on, or decade of super intelligence and so on and so forth. These are just the preliminary ways in which control, management, and more explainability is being brought. So when we think of sovereign AI, we think in 2-3 different dimensions. One is how you bring data privacy, data protection, and prevents any kind of a misuse of such data at a global platform, right? Like how cybersecurity is, what cybersecurity again is for a larger internet world. Doesn't mean that you stop using internet. You just be more cautious and you try and protect yourselves, right? The second aspect of it is building very foundational models rooted in linguistic and cultural variant called India. So the linguistic view that India has and the diversity that it has, unfortunately, if we say that there is only one way AI can be catered to, and that is in one language, I think will not build inclusive AI.
Yeah.
So I see that when you talk about sovereign AI, I see India being a standout, like how we are in democratic setup. One can conjecture whether we are successfully doing it or not, but we are one of the largest democracies which have successfully been running on the premise or the base of constitution. Same way, I feel that we will build one of the largest inclusive AI in the world, right? Which will cater for different diversity, language, culture, you name it, and bring about people into one common platform.
That was a question I was again going to ask you. Sovereign AI in multiple languages, your platform. Is that something you're looking at already?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it is not a choice and should not be a choice when you want.
So your platform is supporting multiple languages?
It will.
Or it will?
It will, because like I said, we are anyways launching in the first half of next year for a larger customer base, especially the product part that I talked about. It has to be because
so right now you're on English, or any other language apart from English you're supporting?
We are currently internally working on Kannada as a language. We have started because of 2 reasons. One, we feel that it brings a lot of interesting learning into the platform, which foundational models of AI has not been able to address. Also, parallelly, we are looking at how the larger Indian ecosystem of linguistic models get developed, to be honest with you, right? Because it cannot be done as an individual effort basis by any large, even large enterprises. Forget about small startups with a limited capability and resource. We're talking about even large enterprise. And that is why I think the government has also defined a way in which the larger Indian ecosystem comes about and build these foundational linguistic model. So we are in the same space together, trying to contribute and exchange notes on how the linguistic models will impact and be the foundational models on which larger conversational AI and AI agents, or whatever you think is the infinite possibility that you can build with AI, will be possible.
Let me come to the question I wanted to ask you. Culture and leadership. I myself almost meet one new startup every day.
I'm sure.
Okay. Either having general conversations, or as a mentoring some companies, or meeting some youngster in a college who has some brilliant idea. So almost like I come across 360 new startups or 360 new ideas.
Right.
Okay. And everybody has great ideas. But my own experience, 35 to really 40 years of experience, while idea is important, is not the most important. So many other things, execution, funding, a great business plan. And for me, I also look at the most important thing, which is neglected, is culture and leadership. I would say they are more interconnected. the culture that you bring in, whatever you as a CEO or as a founder into the company, that can make or break the company.
Sure, absolutely.
You can be a great aggressive leader, but compromising on values and integrity, and at some point it will impact the company.
Right.
So what is your take on both on the culture and the leadership aspect? I would say I've seen myself great ideas, great companies fail because of poor leadership and bad culture also. Okay, it's a given. I mean, in the industry, we have all kinds of cultures, leaders, or whatever it is. What's your take on culture and leadership while for the youngsters, especially the message for the youngsters while they are building startups?
I think that's a fair point, right, on culture and leadership, because often that's something that we have ignored.
You said?
We have ignored as an ecosystem. Right?
Yes.
The reason being that we have always predominantly given more weightage to idea.
Correct.
And we felt that if the idea is great, it will somehow get executed on its own.
True.
Right? So idea is just the starting point. I think for us, when we started, execution was everything. And today also execution is everything.
Absolutely.
An idea is good as how well you can execute and how seamlessly you can execute it, right? Since you talked about my role as a founder and CEO, I see myself more as an enabler, right, of the teams who are executing towards the purpose that we have. That for me is a way I would summarize culture and leadership, right, when I look at it. For anyone who is building out organization today, from the vantage point that I have, and it may not be all holistic and encompassing, may not appeal to everyone in equal measure. I believe that being very clear about the culture that you want to build in the organization is very, very, very critical. Right, because that sets the tone of what is right and what is not right, what is acceptable, what is not acceptable. These are nudges, small behavioral nudges, and when you build it over a period of time, they become foundation on which your organization stands. And as it comes to leadership, I think leadership is often seen as leading. Right, I mean, someone has to be in front, and then others will have to follow. I think we have come to a space globally, not just talking about Indian leadership. What with my global exposure on certain areas and understanding, I would say it's getting more towards making sure that the teams are enabled, the teams are the best versions of what they are, and it is very incubative in nature, right? So you're incubating teams always. And that for me is going to be the hallmark of leadership. In leadership which only expects and doesn't incubate, and it's like a very farmer mindset that way, right? That you have to sow the seed and you have to wait. You have to continue to groom, you have to continue to wait until you can harvest and use your talent for the kind of purpose that you want to build for your organization. And true. So I think that's how I see more like a...
So if I were to summarize what you said is, building a conducive culture in a startup from day one. Right. So you said I would also label it as innovative leadership.
Right.
At the same time, be grounded.
Right.
And stick to the principles of leadership in terms of integrity and values. Absolutely. And of course honesty. I think this will take the company from a longer sustainability. I think it is not just about churning out different versions of a product or whatever. You always need to keep an eye on whether the culture is and it all starts with a leader, maybe you and your co-founders or whatever.
Absolutely.
So this is something which is I always wanted to I always try to take a view from young entrepreneurs like you on what is their focus on this, and I think you are doing the right thing. Focusing on culture and leadership.
Thank you.
And so, what's your, if I may ask, what are the key 5 things that you would say, apart from, of course, now we already talked about culture and leadership. What are the 5, I would say, attributes a new entrepreneur or a new founder or a new innovator needs to, think of when if he wants to start up.
Yeah, I mean,
So leaving aside
right.
culture and
Yeah,
leadership.
sure. So I think as an individual attribute, if I would look at it, right, I mean, I'll say learnability as a first, because we'll continue to learn.
Yes.
Second, I would say is resilience, because there are a lot of obstacles on your way, and you'll have to continue to solve for them.
Yep.
There is no other way
Yeah.
except for do that.
Yes.
Third, I think building trust,
Yes.
right? Not just with your teams, but everyone that you work with. I think building trust is very, very critical and a lot more understated. It somehow gets hidden under the garb of integrity, ethics, and all of that. But I think trust for me is the word. The next is transparency,
Yep.
right? Is very, very critical, wherein you are able to speak very clearly about how you are thinking and not allowing anyone, including your customers, to double guess the intent of the organization or the team.
Transparency from both sides.
From both sides.
From the leadership
Absolutely.
as well as from the. Yeah.
Absolutely. And lastly, I think somewhere the ability to continue to refresh yourself, wherein you are able to always be in a mindset that you can think new.
Yeah.
Because you can easily get jaded,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Every time there is an execution that you are doing, at the end of the execution,
Fantastic.
you are jaded and you don't know how to really approach the next problem,
Yeah.
and you are exhausted. And how do you make sure that you have rewinded and refreshed yourself? So, for me personally, I think these are the 5 things that has worked really well.
I think the last one you mentioned is refresh on a continuous basis, because when it comes to innovation, it's a mindset.
Absolutely, it is.
You cannot be the same innovator forever.
Absolutely.
Right. So you need to think, especially in today's dynamic, intelligent decade, that as you call. It's you need to think every day, what is it that new you can bring into the table, or what is it that new innovation that you can bring. It may not be at a company level, but maybe solving a problem on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
What is it that new to do? So you need to develop that mindset.
Absolutely.
I think it cannot be just something which you learn or whatever. You have to carefully develop this mindset.
Absolutely.
And it's good. So I get when I'm in front of young students, people always talk about in entrepreneurship there's a huge risk. I always say that risk and reward are equal. There's an amount of risk, there's an amount of same amount of rewards as well. So, as an entrepreneur, what's your view on the risks involved in starting up, and how do you think that can be mitigated? And is it that would you, if you are in front of let's say 100 students who are just passing out this year, would you recommend them to start up from day one after they graduate, or would you say that have some experience like the way you had maybe 8-10 years of experience and then start up? What is your view on how to mitigate risk? Take the jump on day one, or experience in an organization and then start up?
So I think the context has to be very very well understood, right? So, and I'm sure you would be aware that different things work for different people, right? For some, straight off college works, but more importantly, I think before you look at a risk and reward, is what you are trying to build out is very, very important. If what you are trying to build out, you are able to build out while being in college, you should just go ahead and do it. But to have that clarity is rare. Now you can have it very early stage in your life, and you can have it very late in your life. I would not consider that too much time. From that standpoint, is just a frame of reference. What is important is that what you are setting out to build and what is your purpose to build. Because oftentimes there is a very romantic idea of entrepreneurship that is floated, right? That it is cool to become an entrepreneur. I think it's a lot of responsibility to become an entrepreneur. It's far more simpler to be the other side, on the other side. And when I'm saying far more simpler, not that they are not difficult, but comparatively, when you look at the kind of accountability, responsibility, challenges that you navigate, it is massive. if you're prepared in college to navigate it, and that is where I think mentorship will play a very, very important role.
Yes.
How your mentors can shape you, and I have seen college students doing excellent ventures. So it will be very premature and inaccurate to say that you can't build out of college. You can absolutely build out of college, and similarly you can build after having some experience as well.
Yes.
The focus should be to build and
Yes.
understand where you are trying to create value, and not get deterred when there are obstacles, because talent is one aspect, expertise is another, but the mindset is third.
Yep.
Right. I think cultivating that mindset, it takes a while. And that is where I think the entrepreneurship is tested often. And I'm sure Indian ecosystem is filled with many examples
Yes.
wherein young entrepreneurs have done fabulous job, but you have to also understand their context and where they are coming from.
Yeah, I think I always tell people. I think especially the youngsters that one is whether whatever you do, you need to have that passion. You want to become an entrepreneur and have that passion, and also keep an eye on what is the problem that you're trying to solve. And if you have the passion to solve that problem, I think that's where you can go miles as an entrepreneur. So, Gajendraji, I think a fantastic conversation today, and very happy to have this conversation with you. If I may summarize, we talked about a whole lot of things. We talked
absolutely.
about how you were rooted in Bharat when you started this company called Matasma.
Yeah.
And you talked about how Swami Vivekananda inspired you. I think it is young entrepreneurs. Many of them I see get inspired by I think one of the greatest philosophers the world has seen, Swami Vivekananda. And then we talked about culture. I mean, I think that is unique culture and leadership, which is unique and most neglected aspect. We talked about aspirational India versus, you as an AI company, whether you are matching up to that vision of aspirational India and Viksit Bharat. And then we talked about today's talent, whether how much of it is hype and how much of it is real. And thank you very much. And it's a fantastic conversation. And I wish you all the best in Matasma. And we hope to see you as a globally listed company. And good luck with that.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.